What's up, you guys? Dan Russell here. I'm a senior software engineer here in Los Angeles, and today I'm going to show you what code actually looks like. I'm going to be coding in HTML, CSS, and JavaScript to make a simple pop-up modal. Now, without further ado, let's jump into my computer and start coding. Alright, so here we are on my desktop, and I'm going to start on my terminal right here. We're going to cd into my desktop, which is basically this area right here, and I'm going to make a directory, which is just a folder, and I'm going to call it modal. And you see right here, this folder was made when I did that command. Alright, so I'm going to cd, aka change directory, into the modal thing, and I'm going to make some files. So I'm going to make an index.html, which will have my HTML code, style.css, my styling code, and my app.js, which is basically my JavaScript logic for this. All right, so I'm going to use my text editor called Atom. It's basically this right down here, and the command to open up this project with the current directory is atom dot. So you press enter, and it opens up the Atom text editor. Okay, so I always start with some simple HTML. So Atom has this great thing where you just type in HTML and press enter, and it gives you an HTML template right here. And I'm just going to call this modal. Now, I just link up my two files, the style.css and the app.js. So to do that, I use a link tag for the CSS, href equals current directory / style.css. The relation is basically it's going to be a style sheet, and then I just close that tag, and Atom automatically does that for me. All right, and the second step is I'm going to make a script tag, which will give the source of that the app.js. All right, so I've just linked up all that right now. What I do is I go and I open index.html. I'm not going to be using a web server here. I'm just going to be editing this file, and you see it's just a blank page. Great. That's exactly what I expect. All right, so basically to make this modal, I'm going to make a little button, and I'm going to call that open modal. Actually, I'll just keep it 2 words here, so it's really easy, and I'll just capitalize it. Okay. I'm going to give this a class of modal button. Actually, let's use the kebab case, it's called, with a little dash in the middle. Okay, and if we refresh, you see there's a little basic button right here called open modal. Now that looks a little basic, so I usually like to style my buttons. So I'm going to split my style.css file over to the right, and that's where I'm going to style this button. So in order to select the class, I do modal button like that, and now I've selected right here this button right here with this class name. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make the background color Dodger blue. That's actually a recognized color. I love the Dodgers too. Go Dodgers. I'm from Los Angeles, as I've said before. Let's make the color, which is the text color, white. And let's see, I know for a fact that I want some padding, and some padding is like the space inside of the button, so I'm going to make 10 pixel padding. I'm going to get rid of the borders on it, and let's just see what that looks like. Alright, so it's a little square button right here. Let's just make the font size 1.5 which is a measurement unit. That's a huge button now. Maybe let's try just 1.25 Okay, refresh. Yeah, that's good enough. And I like it to have rounded corners, so I'm going to do border radius 4 pixels. So it just looks a little smoother, and you can see they're a little like that. Now, for the hover state, I'm just going to do modal button hover, And I'm just going to make the background color just a slightly lighter blue. So I'm just going to do, let's see, just regular blue right now. So what I do right here, you can see that it's like that. I'm also going to do cursor pointer so that it turns into a little glove like that, which usually gives a good indication that that element is clickable. And I'm going to then go into I'm going to do Command Option J to open up this console. Get rid of this right here. Use Inspect Element, click on this, and what you can do to get the hover state is click on this :HOV and do hover. And that is what the hover state will be. I'm just going to edit this, make it this blue. Actually, I'll just make it Dodger blue to start. Sorry, one sec. Dodger blue. And let's just lighten that up a little bit. So I use that over here. Actually, no, I'm going to darken it. There you go. So whatever that is, just copy it, paste it right there, and let's look at that. Oh, beautiful. All right, cool. So that's our button. Very simple. Now let's make a modal, and for the modal, I'm going to use app.js, and I'm going to be using something called ES6 JavaScript. So it's basically a new syntax that's really clean, and it's available in Chrome, but in older browsers like IE11, it's not really that helpful because IE11 can't read this stuff that well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a class modal. Classes are, since JavaScript's an object-oriented programming, an object-oriented language, classes help us kind of organize our code and make nice contained elements. So the class takes a constructor function, and that's where you set up all the stuff that you want from it. So the constructor basically allows us to set up some defaults for our function. Before we go into that, I know I'm gonna want like I can call these functions whatever I want, but I want something like a create modal function, and I want a, what else? Toggle modal. So that's basically what we're going to be calling toggle whenever we press that button, or if we click out of the modal, and it'll close it. All right, so just to make sure we are set up, I'm just going to console.log new modal here. And in my code, since I'm importing this app.js file right on this line, what I can do is make another script tag over here, and actually I can put JavaScript in this HTML directly. So I can say const modal equals new modal right here, and I should see the console.log say new modal here in the console. So let's see if this works. Hopefully it works. Look at our console, refresh the page, and nothing. Why is that? All right, actually what I ended up doing is putting the console log in the create function called modal.create right here, and I know that this code is working, so I'm going to get rid of my other console logs here. All right, so now I can start coding this. So basically the behavior is when I click on this, a modal pop-up should open, and it should basically have a black background here and show a little pop-up. So let's get into this. So I probably want this to have a height and a width. So let's say like maybe a dimensions equals an object with a height equals 200 pixels. Actually, I'll just keep it an integer, and a width of 200. All right, so what we can do now is say this dot height equals dimensions dot height. This dot width equals dimensions dot width. All right, so in our create function, that's when we're actually going to make the elements. So in order to, I'm just going to make this a div, So what we do here is const modal equals document.create element div. And then we use object destructuring here, which is a little advanced, but basically I do const style modal style equals modal dot style, actually equals modal, and I do modal style dot height equals this dot height pixels, modal style dot width equals this dot width pixels. Great. I'm going to do modal style dot background equals, let's do light gray for now. Okay, and then actually before we do that, let's do have this first as the selector, this first argument. So what this does is when we go into the actual modal, I will give it a div ID to render into. So in order to do that, I'm going to do div right here, ID equals render. You can call it whatever you want. I'm going to call it render. Actually, no, I'm going to call it main because that makes sense. That's the ID. Then I'm going to do this dot selector equals selector. And I'm going to, right at the bottom here, I'm going to get rid of this console log here. Get rid of that. I'm going to do document.get element by ID. This dot selector dot append child. And what this does is it basically puts this element inside of this div right here. I'm just going to open that up for clarity. And I'm going to do modal. And let's see if this works. Okay, this already has dimensions, so we're good there. All right, let's see what happens. Cannot read property append child of no. All right. So why is that? I must have misspelled select constructor right here. Okay, that makes sense. That's why the console log wasn't working earlier. All right, and that's our modal right there. It doesn't look too nice, but let's give that a width of 500 pixels. There you go. Alrighty. So that's a start. We know that it's sort of working. It looks kind of ugly though, so let's get to it. We're going to, so what I like to do is usually put this with like a mask around it. It's like usually like a transparent gray, and I'm going to center it in the page. So let's do that all in JavaScript. So I usually, let's call the black background a mask equals document.create element div. Okay, const style mask styles equals mask. So mask style dot position, I'm going to give this an absolute position. Mask style dot top equals 0. Mask style dot left equals 0. Height, mask style dot height equals 100%. Mask style dot width equals 100%. And mask style dot background color equals, let's just make it black for now. And then I'm going to put these in an array. So let's see, const else equals modal mask else dot, we're going to loop through the elements for each L. I'm going to append the element. So let's see what that looks like. Boom, yes, that's exactly what I wanted. In order to make sure that the modal is from the front, we do z index equals 1. Maybe I might need to do 2 here. Let's do 2. All right, maybe, let's see. So as you can see, I'm kind of messing up here and there, and that's totally normal. It's basically whatever you make is going to be broken, and then your job is to fix it. So even though I've done this a lot of times, I still kind of toy around with it. So, and bugs always show up, even though, despite your best efforts. So this is probably going to work. No. Okay. Why is that? Yeah, let's give these proper class names. That's right. I probably want to create a modal container. Let's see, modal container equals document. So it's basically going to be a parent element. Create element div. I'm going to basically make it have the same kind of styles that this has, except for the let's see. Let's do mask.class name equals mask. Modal container class name. Change these all to modal container style. Okay, and then modal container dot append child e, and then document dot query get element by id this dot selector dot append child the modal container. Great. Cannot access mask before the initialization. That's fine. I probably just equals modal container. Great. We're back where we're started from, but this time we have, oh yeah, I don't want this to have, this is going to be the modal container. We have the mask and the modal. Okay. So let's try this again. Oh, I know. I think I know why. So, yeah, we're going to keep this the same order right here. I'm going to make this modal style dot position equals relative. There we go. Yeah, that's right. Relatively positioned elements can take a z index. I briefly forgot about that. Let's try z index of 1. So it brings it to the top. I may not even need it. Let me just try this. Yeah, okay. It's because the other one was absolutely positioned, and the position of the modal right here was static. All right, so I'm just going to center this little block right here. What I do here is modal style dot margin equals auto. Actually, let's do let's do auto for now. That'll center it. And then modal style dot top equals 50%. Bring it to the middle. Now it's not fully in the middle, and I kind of want it just above the middle. So what I'm going to do is adjust the top margin. So -200 pixels auto. I think that looks great. Let me give that a border radius too. Modal style dot border radius equals 4 pixels because I like perfect. All right, now this is kind of weird because it looks like a black background. I kind of want it to have a transparent background, and it's really simply just click on that and you move it let's say about there. Copy that. Actually, I want the RGBA value. All right, let's make this, instead of black, let's do RGBA 0, 0, 0, and then 0.5, which is the amount. All right, perfect. So there's a little modal, but we want it to be hidden when it first shows up in the browser. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off this modal container as display none. So modal container style dot display equals none. So we won't see the modal container anymore. It's in the, you can see it right here in the DOM. The DOM, it means document object model. It's basically like what is in the HTML when the page loads. But you can, we can't see it because I just made a default display none right here, which is the style. By the way, I didn't describe this earlier, but these are basically the same as the CSS little keys that we put here, but it's a way of using JavaScript to apply inline CSS styles. So you see the inline styles right here, position absolute, top 0, left, blah, blah, blah. You see this happen a lot in like frameworks. I could move all this over to the style.css, but I think it's just a lot more self-explanatory to put them in here, and then we can like make them dynamic, kind of like, and configurable, kind of like what we did with width and height here. And I can show you what you can do there. Actually, I'll show you right now. So instead of having a 200 and 500 width, I could do this. I could just give it an object and make the height, let's see, 100, and the width 200. And you see, if I just get rid of this display none, comment that out, you see it's much smaller. And if I get rid of, just delete that, it'll use the defaults up here, right here, to make 200 by 500 pixels. And that's what we're doing there. So you can see CSS styles applied via JavaScript that way. All right. So it's hidden again. What we're going to do is we're going to finally program to where when you click the button, it'll show the modal. So to do that, I'm going to use this toggle function here. And this toggle function is basically, we're going to make it so that when you click on the button, it'll call the toggle function on this modal instance, and it will change the display of the container from none to block, which block means like a block level element. It means basically like show the element. It's a little trick in CSS. So should show modal equals true. So this is going to be a switch. It's going to switch from Boolean values true to false. And I'm going to, in the toggle, say if should show modal okay, I'm going to need to have access to the modal container within this function. So what, a little trick to do that is you can assign that to this. And then since we've been fancy, we can just add this here and this here. See if it still works without any, no, we haven't. Console modal container is not defined. Where's modal container? This dot modal container, this dot modal container. All right, that should work. Okay. So if should, this dot should show modal. This dot modal container dot style dot display equals block. And then we're going to switch the toggle. So this dot should show modal equals not this dot should show modal. The exclamation mark means basically turn whatever this value is to the opposite, which is going to be a false up here when the code runs. And then I'm going to do else. So else we want to hide it. So we basically just do the opposite. So I'm going to copy these two lines here, paste them down here. I'm going to do none, and it'll still work right here to switch it to the opposite value. All right, so then we can go back here and I can do get this modal button by its, I'm going to give it an ID of the same name. So let's see. I'm just going to do modal button just because it's a little more self-explanatory. We can do const modal button equals document dot get element by ID modal button, and then I can add a click event listener. So add event listener click, which takes a function, and inside this function I can say modal dot toggle. All right, let's pray that this works. Hey, it works. Awesome. All right, so I also want, like, if you click on anywhere in the black space here, that it will close this modal. So that'll be pretty simple. What I can do is add that right here in the mask. So I can just do mask dot add event listener click again, and I will just do this dot toggle. So that should work. Let me just refresh the page. Boom, boom, boom. You can click on here. Great. So we just made the basic bare bones of this application. So let's just have a little fun now and add some text here. So for the text, I want to make that configurable. So I'm just going to do like a text object here, and that's going to have a title, which is like hello there, and a body text, which is, I can do I'm a modal. All right, and what we can do with that is append that to our modal right here. So I'm going to say, oh yeah, always apply it to this dot text equals text, and then I can use object destructuring const title body equals this dot text. So that takes this dot text and it just fetches the title and the body text in there. So what I can do is I can do const title element equals document dot create element h1, which is a heading tag. It's just naturally bigger than like other text, and then title l dot inner text equals title. Same deal with body. I'm just gonna change that to body, and make this a paragraph tag. And then I'm going to do a similar kind of thing where we loop through them. So I'm just going to say const text list equals an array of title L, body L, text list dot, we're going to loop through this for each bit of text. I'm going to basically modal dot append child text. All right, let's see if that works. Let me just clean this code up a little bit before we, okay, great. Hey, there it is, right there. Now, I can style that to make it pretty easy. I can just do modal style dot padding equals 10 pixels and modal style dot text align equals center. So it just looks nice and pretty. Hey, hello there, I'm a modal. All right, let's change the text here. So I'm going to just change the text of the entire, let's just do of the body, because the star selector can be slow. The body, let's make that font family Arial sans serif. Boom. Hey, that's a little nicer. All right, and let's add some animations because that's fun. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my CSS, and I like to add my animations with transitions. So what class name did I give this modal? Okay, I gave it the modal container. So what I'm going to do is basically do modal container opacity 0, and then I'll do modal container shown equals transition. Actually, no, I'm going to add the transition on here. Opacity 1 second. Actually, let's do like 0.5 seconds. And here, is just going to be a class that I add on. So opacity 1. Now we're going to run into some troubles with this, but let's try this. So in the toggle, I'm going to basically add to the modal container an opacity of 1, and this transition will delay that by about a half a second, so it'll kind of like fade in and out. There's going to be some complications which we'll get through. So here we go. I'm going to do this dot modal container dot class list dot add. What is this class again? It's modal container shown. All right, it's not going to work, but let's see if it adds the class. Great. And you see there's no animation, but I know why that is. It's because of this display block here right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just wrap this is a little bit of a hack. Set timeout, put it in a function, and do that 0. So it pushes it to the end of the event loop. This is just something you'll learn eventually. And it didn't work. Let's do the 500. Oh, no. I want to do the set timeout around this other one. So you see, I'm constantly messing up, and it may seem like I'm a bad programmer, but this is such a common thing that happens. Like, all right, well, hey. It sort of works. There's a little bit too much of a delay there. Let's try just set timeout 0, see if that'll do it. Yeah, there you go. Woo! All right, now let's animate it on the way out. Now we're going to do the opposite. So this dot modal container dot class list dot remove modal container shown. That's what we're going to do. We're going to actually do another set timeout, and this time it's going to be around the display property right here. And let's give this a delay of 500 milliseconds, which is half a second. Let's see if this works. Oh yeah, look at how smooth that is. Beautiful. Okay. So you're kind of starting to see how like little CSS animations and stuff like that add a little bit of class to these very simple things. And if you add enough of these elements and little cool things to your website, it just makes the quality feel a lot better and a lot smoother. All right, so I think this video has gone on quite long enough. Basically, you now know all the steps that it takes and all the different languages it takes to make a little front-end application like that. I didn't go into how to deploy this on a web server, and I didn't go into very complex stuff. Plus, this code's a little messy, but I think for the simplicity of this little feature, now you can understand like how the programming language part allows for the interaction with the button and all that. Oh, sorry. Like that. And then how the styling kind of helps arrange the elements on the page and helps you change the colors and like all that stuff. And then you see how this HTML file kind of like has all the containing elements in it and is basically like this whole box right here that you use as your canvas to like put stuff into and style it. All right, thanks for sticking with me till the end. Hopefully now you get a better idea of what it looks like to actually code. It's a lot of messing up, trying new things, getting lost, and then finding yourself at the very end. All right, if you like this video, please smash that like button, hit subscribe, and stay tuned for more videos on coding and how to get a job as a software engineer. Thanks so much. I'll see you in the next video.